Friday, January 1st, 2016. Derek Davis here with Rob Vino, sportsbettingtoday.us, and Rob Vino Sports. Rob, five games on the card today. Let's start here first with game 263, 264 in college football. Tennessee and Northwestern from the Outback Bowl in Tampa, Florida. Game has a 12 p.m. Eastern kickoff. The early game here today, Rob. Tennessee opened this game as an 8-point favorite with a total of 45.5. The game has been pushed to Tennessee minus 9.5, and the total has been pushed to 47.5. Weather should not be a factor in this one, Rob. Temperatures mid 70s, low 80s. Southwest winds 6 to 10. Injury-wise, nothing really to report for Northwestern other than the loss of the cornerback Nick Van Hoos, who is out. That came in after Christmas. Linebacker Jalen Prater is also out. He was hurt there late November. For the Volunteers, quite a few injuries, Rob, especially on defense for the Vols. Defensive line and linebacker have been really hit this year for Tennessee, injury-wise. But the Volunteers were 6-1 down the stretch, straight up, Rob. 5-2 against the number during that time. The only loss coming to Alabama, where they played very well on the road there. Tennessee has been very good on offense this year, Rob. But Northwestern's defense is stout. You worry if Northwestern has the offensive capability to keep up with Tennessee if it becomes a track meet. But the past 3 games, Northwestern's defense has been stout, especially. Northwestern winner of 5 in a row straight up after losing to Michigan and Iowa in October. 4-1 against the number during that time. And Rob, you know you're going to get good effort from Fitzgerald's squad there from Evanston, Illinois. But do they have the athletes to be able to keep up with Tennessee offensively? If this game becomes something where Northwestern might have to get out of its comfort zone a little bit if they get behind early. Do you think, Rob, that Tennessee can, or that Northwestern can score enough on Tennessee today, Rob?
In this one, Derek, my immediate reaction when I saw this matchup was not to think of either team, but immediately the head coach for Northwestern, Pat Fitzgerald, came to my mind. The first thing I thought of in this contest, Northwestern during his tenure in these bowl games, and they've been to a couple of New Year's Day bowl games, and they come to play. So that was the first thing I thought of. Northwestern's going to be fully focused. Northwestern's going to be ready. Northwestern's going to come to play. That's all well and good. And the next question is, are they good enough? We've seen throughout 2015 that Northwestern is as dreadful an offense as there is in college football, at least in Power 5 conference college football. They sit probably right with Missouri, two very similar teams as far as offensive play is concerned. Northwestern, to me, probably even a little bit worse. Clayton Thorson, the quarterback, got the number 1 job, but really didn't do a good job this year. You look at the passing yardage for this team in modern day football. To only throw for 140 yards per game is pretty horrendous. To only score 20.7 points per game. Again, they lived all season long off of their defense. Now they're matched with an SEC team which has a very powerful offensive line, a very powerful running back in Jalen Hurds, speed and power combination, a dual threat quarterback, and a powerful runner in Josh Dobbs, accurate thrower. It's a lot to contend with here if you are Northwestern that you didn't have to contend with when you were in Big Ten play this year. Aside from the Stanford game to start the season, which I now think we can just write off as Stanford, it wasn't a full-blown West Coast to East Coast trip, but the time zone, certainly made a difference here. It was a very early start. Stanford was not ready. But after watching 12 full games of each of those teams, Stanford and Northwestern, if they played again, I don't think we're going to see 16-6 Northwestern. Aside from that team, you go down a list of teams that Northwestern played this year and look for a dual threat quarterback, something that they had to game plan for, something that they had to stop, and you just don't see it. I mean, Thomas Sirk for Duke in their third game of the season was a fairly decent runner. But remember, Thomas Sirk, first year freshman quarterback in his third game of the year, not necessarily Josh Dobbs by any stretch of the imagination. Um, Aside from that, you go down, you might say Tommy Armstrong for Nebraska, but I just don't believe that Tommy Armstrong is the accurate quarterback that Josh Dobbs is as far as passing the football is concerned. He's also not as powerful a runner. He's quick and can make big yardage with his legs, but Dobbs can run people over. Aside from being fast, so I think Dobbs has the huge edge there. And after that, there's just nobody. So I think that that poses a real big threat to Northwestern here. The point spread is huge. Tennessee just continues to climb this morning all the way up to 9.5. There's a lot of ways, a lot of factors in this game to me that reminds me of what used to be the old theory of fast SEC against slow Big Ten. And I think that that might apply here. I think the speed and power of Tennessee in the trenches may be too overwhelming for a game, but overmatched Northwestern team in this contest. The total's also been hit 45.5, the opener up to 47.5. I think that people probably feel that Tennessee's a bit vulnerable on the defensive side as well. Overall, they had a pretty good defensive year, 370 yards allowed per game. Didn't play the best of offenses in that SEC East. Again, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky. It's just not a bunch of good offenses. So maybe they're skewed a little bit. But in the end, if I use the Tennessee Missouri game as a gauge for this Tennessee Northwestern game, and I think that's pretty fair gauge to use because, like I said earlier, Missouri and Northwestern are very similar. Tennessee goes on the road into Columbia, wins the game 19-8, wins by 11, kicked a lot of field goals in Missouri territory in that particular game. They could have made that game much, much worse than the 19-8 final. Total yardage in that one was 337 Tennessee, 223 Missouri. So you got about 114 yard edge. I see a lot of similarities between the two. So an 11-point win there. You're starting to lay an awful lot of points here now, though. 9.5 is up there. I think if you keep it under 10, you're probably safe. Not a strong lean, but I think a slight lean towards Tennessee here, minus the 9.5.